you're going to need these 4 colors of crayon and a purple piece of paper. I will be doing mine on white so that you can see it easier. Go ahead and start with your brown crayon. You're going to start with a dot all the way at the back edge of your paper, top corner, sorry. From here, we're going to be drawing very light lines to begin with, and later on we can make them darker once we decide where we want those lines to actually be. So go ahead and lightly draw a line that connects to the front of bottom corner of your paper. Then start on the other side and draw another line that goes above that bottom corner. This is going to be our train track, but we'll worry about that later on. Go ahead now and grab your black crayon. And we're going to start with the front circle of our train, and we want this to be nice and big. It will give us a nice big train. So right about here, you're going to draw a nice big circle. Okay? Then from there, we're going to draw a line that goes in front of our train tracks, and then a line that kind of cuts up all the way up to the top right there. It should be overlapping the other edge of your train tracks. From there, we'll connect this side like this. Now we're going to go ahead and add lightly the center where our light will come out. Okay, now we need to do the tricky part. In order to make the train look like it's coming closer to us, just like we made our train tracks start at that dot, this is actually called a vanishing point. This is the point where we can no longer see the end of the train. And we're going to start as close as we can to where the bottom of this circle would be. So maybe right about here, and very lightly draw a line that goes all the way back to your vanishing point. Now find the very topmost part of your train, which would be right about there, and do the same thing. Okay? Once again, we're going to start right about here on the bottom, and this kind of wedges in first, so I'm going to draw a line that goes like that to make it look like it wedges in. And then that line is going to also go all the way back to the vanishing point. Remember, these are all very light lines. Okay? The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to start adding our wheels. I on my original, I kind of did different sizes of wheels. Trains typically have some big wheels and then a lot of small wheels. So let's go ahead and add maybe 2 or 3 big wheels. I'm going to put one maybe right here. Another one right here. Notice how I'm not exactly on the brown line. That's okay, because later on we can make our line darker and make it look like it's in the right spot. Maybe I'm going to add a smaller wheel back here. As things go farther back, like we've learned before, they get smaller, so our wheels should get smaller as they go back. And I might add a couple, like a medium-sized wheel here and maybe a small wheel right here. Okay? The next thing we want to do is we want to add where the steam would come out. So maybe right about here, I'm going to draw one line and then a second line. And I'm going to draw an oval, but my oval has to touch both of these lines. Mine went over a little bit, so I'm just going to correct it by making that a little bit thicker. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start adding details. The first thing I want to do is I want to add, actually let's go ahead and switch to, no, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of black. And since the front of my train is circular, I'm going to use a circular motion to color in my train. I want to keep it nice and light for right now. Later on we'll make it darker. Okay. It's okay if there's color showing through. It doesn't need to be colored very well right now. Just keep the circles going. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing on the rest of the front of our train, but on this one, because the lines, the side of the lines are vertical, I'm going to do my best to make the rest of my lines copy those side lines. This will make your coloring look really nice and neat. On top of that, I'm going to add a few lines for texture to show that there's deeper maybe holes or grading right here, so I'm going to add a few lines like this. If you have space for 4, you can do 4. You decide what would look best for your train. You might have 4 or even 5. Okay. Before we go too much further, I'm going to go ahead and switch to my yellow. I want to get my yellow light on there nice and bright before I do anything else. Now, light starts in the center, but it starts to, it widens the further away it gets. Like if you've ever held a flashlight, it'll get wider as it goes. So I'm going to try to make my yellow right about here, and then right up about here, I'm going to take it straight out like that. And then I'm going to color as hard as I can, because I want that to look, I want the black to show through a little bit, but I want it to look nice and bright. Later on, if you want to add some more oranges and yellows into that to brighten it up even more, you can go ahead and do that. Okay. Now, to make it look like one side is brighter or more shaded than the other, I want this to look round. Right now it looks very square. And the way I do that is I make the side that's farthest away from me darker. What I mean is this top edge of my train is going to be nice and dark. I'm not going to worry about the smoke pipe right now. Right now, or the steam pipe. We're just worrying about this part right now. Okay. And again, it gets darker the farther it goes back, and lighter the closer it is to us. Now, as I color further down, I want to start pushing lighter on my crayon. As I get to this bottom edge, or as I get to the center, I want it to be really light, like hardly any crayon right there. Okay. And that's a big difference. So I might even make this a little bit darker because I want it to be so gradual you don't really notice the difference in color. Okay. Then as I get down further here, it rounds back down and it gets darker. That's where shadows would be. So I'm going to make that darker. I might not make it as dark as the top, but it should. I can even leave a little line of the lighter right there, and that'll add some detail to it. Okay. Now my train looks like it's round. I'm going to go ahead and start working on the front here. And just like on the front, this top edge is shadowed. I'm just going to go ahead and be consistent with that. I'm going to make this side a little bit more shadowed. And then I'm going to make it a little bit lighter as I go. Again, I can try to keep my crayons going the same direction. Don't be afraid to move your paper as you color. I'm leaving a little white edge as much as I can right there, and I'm going to use the white edge as the edge of the front of my train. If you don't feel comfortable about that, you can just use a black line to outline the front of your train. Okay. I could even go through. Let's just do that. You can do it either way. I'll just do it the darker way for you guys. Okay. As I get to the center, I might kind of try to get it nice and light. The importance with using darker and lighter shading is that you want to be consistent. Okay, now we are ready to do the front. I am picturing this part of the train to be closer to me than this part, which means that there'd be a little bit of a shadow right in here. So I'm going to add my darker shadow right there. And again, I don't want these sharp lines between colors, so I'm going to start adding it and trying to make those disappear by gradually adding lighter and lighter colors to it. And I should be able to just kind of make it look like it's blending in together. This side over here, I might just go ahead and keep it dark since it's kind of farther away. So I might make that edge darker and then kind of lighten it up as I go closer towards the center. Okay. Again, trying to keep your crayon lines going the same direction. That's so important when you're coloring. It really makes a difference on how nice and neat your art looks. We need to do the stovepipe, or the smoke pipe right here. This part, We could, if you wanted to, you could take some white. Let me pull out gray since I've got white paper. On your paper, the white would show up. But you could add some smoke here if you wanted to. And look at how I let it just kind of go up off the top of the paper. You can make it circular if you wanted to, or you could just make it a puff. It's up to you. And then again, I'm going to add in those dark colors. And this, instead of going top to bottom dark and light, I'm going to do side to side. It helps me to turn it around if I want. I'm going to make the edges of it really dark. And then the center of it, I'm going to try to make lighter. I can even end up with a nice white line in the center. And to add, yeah, there we go. Okay. Now we just have where the train wheels are. So we're going to work on that a little bit. I'm going to add my little spokes in the center. I'm not going to worry too much. All I'm going to worry about is making sure that my wheels are circular looking, using my crayon to color it circular. And I might draw a line, the way that ours is working right now, I'm going to just draw a line showing the bottom of the train, and that should touch my vanishing point back there. So you want to kind of focus on your vanishing point and pretend that there's a line that goes all the way across. And this part I'm going to make nice and dark because it's the underside of the train. So I want it to look the darkest part. I want it to look like it's all dirty and gross. These wheels look like they're just kind of hanging out there. I'm going to slope this down like this. And then those wheels don't look like they're so lost. If you feel like there should be a shadow underneath your train, feel free to do that. And if you like yours more outlined, like maybe you want your wheels, I'm going to make my wheels outlined so you can see them a little bit better. It's really important on this lesson to control how hard or how light you're pushing on the paper. If you got too dark too early, it's hard to fix. Okay. The last thing that we need to do is we need to go back and add our train tracks again. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to add the lines anywhere where I think the train tracks would be seen. Obviously they won't be seen right there, so I'm going to add it right here. And oh, it's a little bit too thin, so I'm going to just thicken it up so it looks like the train tracks are on the train, or the train is on the train tracks. I'm going to keep adding it on here. I can make it look that way just by adding it thicker. Okay. I'm going to come down here and do this front edge. This edge won't really be seen. I'm just going to add a little bit so people see it there. And then I'm going to start with my horizontal ones. The ones that are closer to me should be nice and thick and big. Try to stay consistent with this, making your train tracks the same space. I'm going to actually have it come off, so it's like that. Okay, and then let's see. I'm going to measure this. Oh, it's about 2 fingers wide, so right about there. I would have another piece showing off. Now that's only going to work at the beginning. As I move farther back, they're going to get closer together and they're going to get smaller. Right here, they're still going to be nice and big. But they start to get smaller and closer together the further back I go. Hard to do, I know. Okay. The last thing we can do, I'm just going to make this whole area look like it's a snowy bank. So I'm just going to cover it with white. Since you can't see on my paper, yours will show up, but I'm going to use gray. If you want to add some hills, like to make it look like the snow is mounding, you can, or if you just want to color it flat, that's fine with me. Okay, and if you want to, right where that vanishing point is, where that dot is, that's where the ground meets the sky. So you might want to take a little bit of blue or purple and add some sky into there. And there you go, there's our crane. Well done.